Good morning, everybody. Welcome to the session on Lifecycle Services. I'm Meera Mahabala. I'm a Group Program Manager for the Cloud Platform and Lifecycle Services for Finance and Operations. Really pleased to see a few people at least that I know in the audience and hope to talk to more people after the session also here. So as we get started here, let's click to the agenda here. What I had in mind was that we would start with the overview. We do a lot of sessions on lifecycle services, but we never really quite cover everything that it has and then go into other parts. So for this session, I will just give a quick overview of what lifecycle services does, and then we'll go into the what's new. Where we'll spend some time on all the features that we have in the last 6 months. So this is more or less in the 6-month time frame. And then we'll go a little bit into the roadmap where I'm talking about the next 6 months. And in there I have a few that are, I know people have been talking to me about some features that have been in preview and how they can get it, things like that. But we'll go into the next 6 months on what features you can expect as we go into the next 6 months essentially. So just a quick show of hands, can I see who is already been using lifecycle services? Is this everyone? Okay, it's not. Okay, good. So the next 2-3 slides will hopefully give an introduction for the people who are not using lifecycle services. So quickly, lifecycle services is the application lifecycle management portal for finance and operations, but it's also really for talent and commerce side of things, right? So it's meant to be the application lifecycle management portal end to end. When we talk about it as it manages all the 4 phases. So it's essentially, it's during define, you have a set of tools around methodology, business processes, task guides, and how you configure your data. I'll go a little bit more into all of each of these. And then in the build phase, we have a set of solutions, ISV solutions that you can bring in. You have the ability to upgrade. If you're a 2012 customer, you have an ability to upgrade. We actually have a way in which you will take you step by step through the upgrade process. We have test automation support as you're building your solution. And when you go into deploying your solution, of course, you can deploy your customizations using Lifecycle Services, but you can also get Microsoft service updates through Lifecycle Services. You can import, export data as you choose to do. You can do a database refresh, right? So that's something that we allow you to do. You can import your golden configuration, for example. You can export your data. All of that is allowed during the deploy phase. And then finally, in the operate phase, when you're actually live with your customizations itself, you can monitor, diagnose, you log support tickets, for example, through Lifecycle Services. You can manage your comms through Lifecycle Services. So essentially, you get all your communications also, and who gets the communication is managed through Lifecycle Services. And then finally, we have a set of local deployments in certain regions that we have today, which includes China, France, are the 2 big ones, and EU, where we are completely data resident and locally available today. So as personas goes, we really are catering to the partner systems implementer, will definitely play a role in lifecycle services. The IT admin certainly plays a role as the bits are live and as they operate. And then finally, even the ISV, as they manage their solution and package up their solution, can use lifecycle services. So a quick run through by persona and how the systems implementer would essentially use lifecycle services. So if you start with the left side top on onboarding and implementation, so with every lifecycle services project, we start with as soon as you have your set of licenses, you're given an implementation project, what is called an implementation project, which is lifecycle services. As you're given the implementation project, you have a methodology. The standard methodology is made by our fast track team. and that's the methodology that's available, but this certainly can be extended by partners and is done and can be used for your various customizations. We also have an onboarding tool, but that's relatively new. I'll just quickly show that as we go through things, but this is essentially to help our fast track team get certain pieces of data. It also sort of bootstraps your project and the settings that you need to do for a project in an implementation. So that's sort of the first step that you would do. The next step is around any kind of fit gap analysis that you're trying to do. This is where we have a business process modeler, which is an APQC tree, which essentially has a set of business processes that are standard out of the box from finance and operations. Our ISVs use it, and also our partners augment it. So this is essentially useful for you to see what is standard functionality and what is gaps that you will have to create more customizations around. So as you do that, one of the things that is available as part of the business process modeler is you have task recordings associated with it, so you can quickly run a task recording to see what actually a business process does, and this can be used in the future for training purposes also. The next aspect that we have is around importing ISV solutions. You can import ISV solutions into Lifecycle Services. An ISV solution might be composed of multiple asset packages. All of these are brought back into Lifecycle Services, and essentially they will be placed in the various in our asset library. So if they have data packages, if they have code packages, all of this are brought into Lifecycle Services. We have a very good ProDev ALM story, and I think we had another session around that too, but essentially this we integrate with Azure DevOps. We let you do a build, test, and then bring the customization back into Lifecycle Services and then apply the customization onto any environment that you would like to use. In terms of data configuration, there's data import export framework. There is a common, there's a CDM which is also available, which is essentially a configuration data manager within Lifecycle Services that you can use in order to just deploy any type of data that you're looking at. And then finally, once you're done with the code customizations and data into the environment, you can go live, and we have the ability for you to take the golden config that you have previously created in dev test, brought it to sandbox, and then into production, right? So sort of it's supposed to manage the whole life cycle, and our intent is, of course, that you do this on a regular basis and you continue to augment the functionality that you have, so which is why this whole thing is a cycle, and you can do as many times as the project requires you to do it. So that's something that's available as part of LCS. So let's go on to the next phase, the next persona, which is IT admin. So if you're an IT admin and you're looking at Lifecycle Services, you can essentially do all these operations today through LCS. To start with is the maintain environments. You can deploy an environment, and we have now a self-service deployment model on the new environments that's available, where you completely drive your deployments to under an hour. And then you can do database movement operations, which includes bringing your production data into your sandbox data. And this is quite a well-used process across LCS today. We get quite a high number of such requests per week is essentially that is being done on this, and this is primarily for troubleshooting is one way to use it, but you can also use it at the beginning to move your golden configuration, for example, into production. Day-to-day monitoring, so we do allow day-to-day monitoring using several features. There's SQL Insights, which I will briefly show. There's email notifications that you also get from Microsoft on any kind of changes, any kind of incidents. If we see any aberration in your system, there are emails that are sent out. So all of that is done through LCS. So you just have to make sure that you're in the right notification aliases, and that's a step in project onboarding that you can configure. Managing updates, the entire update experience for one version is managed through LCS. We have an update settings where you can set up exactly what time you would like to get a certain specific update from Microsoft at. And this is done monthly. Of course, there's exceptions that we honor, and we'll go into that a little bit more. The next one is around support. All support, in fact, most of our tickets, 95% plus of our support tickets come through LCS. And there is an assisted support experience, and we encourage you to use the LCS experience because it also has prompts to help you solve the issue yourself. If you do not want to, so it will preempt, essentially it will give you, it gives you docs articles that are available that potentially solve it, but it also gives you any kind of issues that are fixed in builds that you're not there. So in both ways, it's useful to use the LCS support tracking, and that's a mechanism for you to bring the support to get together in LCS. We have a process of production outage. This is something that we introduced some time back. If there is, of course, we're 24/7 monitoring the system, but if there is an issue that hasn't been caught by Microsoft, then you can go ahead and log a production outage ticket. Within 30 minutes, there will be somebody on the call trying to fix the issue itself. It is a very guided questionnaire, so it will go through and make sure that there is an issue as it does that. So you will see that as you go through the questionnaire for production outage itself. And then finally, diagnosis and troubleshooting. We have a set of things, and we'll go into that a little bit more through the session, so I will leave that for now. And finally, for the ISV persona, so really we have two major parts. One is the build and packaging of a solution itself. That's the big part where you can compose your solution of a BPM, data packages, reports, or any other kind of assets that you have, including your code deployable packages. So you can do that through LCS. You can version these assets, so that's goodness. And then you can also, as you are distributing these assets, what you can do is you can manage the scope of how it's distributed. If you use this method of distribution, the one thing that does happen is the people using the solution through this mechanism will essentially get an update when you release a new version of the ISV package itself. So that's pretty handy to use. And this has been there for some time. I know people haven't used it as much, and I think we've kept that in preview too. So if there's more feedback in this area, please let us know, because this is something that is available, and it does help especially track your users. It helps you know at least which versions your users are on, and it lets them know when there's a new version that's available. The curation and app source availability is, of course, manual steps today, but we have over 700 ISV solutions on app source for finance and operations today that can be used, and it's something that's worth looking at if you're looking for ISV solutions before you go live on a specific project. And then finally, there is the ISV Studio today that has been newly added, which is essentially helps the ISVs monitor the usage and also track and troubleshoot any kind of issues that come along. So that is a new addition that's coming along. So that is something that will be available as we go into the next couple of months. So with that, let's go into what's new. So one version, as all of you are familiar with, is really an initiative that we started and we launched in April of this year, this calendar year. And this is essentially to say that we want all our customers to be on the latest and greatest bits and have all the innovation that we essentially release monthly to be able to uptake all that innovation. We have actually been on this journey to one version for over 2 years. It has been a step-by-step process that we did, and we have listened to feedback, we've made changes, and we've tweaked and so on for those of you who have been on this journey with us for some time now and have given us feedback on this. So what it is now is what I'll go through. Essentially, we have 8 service updates a year today that we release, and they're all it's all pre-scheduled. So if you want to plan ahead, you can. Every year is supposed to look this way. The first week of the month is where Microsoft starts to push updates, right? So, and you have an ability to configure these updates through the update settings. You can choose which week you would like to get updated, but the first week, the updates is when the update starts. So that's the typical way in which updates occur. We made a few changes, like I said, from the previous plan of record. So the updated plan is essentially, today we allow 8 updates per year. We allow a customer to pause a maximum of 3 consecutive updates. And you can do this through LCS, and it's essentially a pause, and the pause gets reset after the time is elapsed. But you can go ahead and you can do the pause today. And so essentially what this comes down to is a customer must take up to 2 updates in a year. So that's where we are right now. And it provides hopefully a predictable cadence for you to plan or updates and when you would like to take them. So that's something that we are very conscious about and we have brought in. Something that we want to bring in is also a calendar view in LCS. We don't have that today, so that you can actually plan the updates that you take as you go along. So that is something that we will bring in. And then we do support hot fixes or quality updates, as we call them, in N on N and on N-1. And you can deploy also new configurations on N or N-1. So the latest or one before that. That's essentially the model today. OS updates today are separate from this, and OS updates will also become will be a zero downtime if you're on self-service deployment. But for now, this is separate from this particular topic itself here. So quickly going into how the self-update experience itself looks. So essentially what we have is, today we have is when you're in LCS, you are within the context of an environment. It knows exactly, of course, the current build it's on. So everything that you see there in terms of updates and update prompts is context sensitive. So the first one that what we call a quality update. So this is an update that we have made over and above the monthly update that is there, right? So if we have found an issue and we would like to provide a fix for that update is when you will see something called a quality update. And this is available. You will see every one of these has a major version 10.0.4 like this one has, and just below that it has the actual build number that's available. We also have what's called, of course, the service update, which is the regular monthly update that is available. And this will also show up in your environment window, and you can take a look at it, and you can bring down a service update as required. And if it's an upcoming service update, that is, if you're in the previous month and an upcoming update is now available and it's recommended, you will see that as a sign that you can also update on. So we have tried to, there is a number of permutations still, because I think our customer base wanted to have the option of getting these various permutations, but we've tried to make it as clear as possible with this in terms of which update you are taking. So please take a look at this, and this will be environment context sensitive, so that should help hopefully in taking the actual update itself. So when a new release becomes available, there are 2 places we actually make this notification available. One is an action center. So on the left hand side of the home page, there is an action center in LCS, and you will see that there is a monthly release or a cumulative update that's available. This is essentially the monthly release service updates are what is shown in the action center itself. In addition to this, we have the environment detailed page where we will show you if there are additional quality updates that are available that are specific to your environment itself. So that is something that's only available in the environment. The Action Center typically has service updates, which are monthly service updates that will get shown in general. So just quickly, yeah, I'll show this with the other things in the interest of time. Let's keep moving on. So the next new feature that we have is around add-in configuration. So something that we are doing in the next 6 months is we are going to be introducing several new add-in services. And all of these services can be now updated through LCS. So that is something that is available. So essentially, you will have a way to add, modify, or remove these components itself. Each of these components will have multiple resources that are required. So you can provision these resources. You can essentially initialize these resources through LCS. And add-ins can be free or licensed, so that will vary depending on what the add-in is. It could be paid or it could be free. So that will vary, but that will be pretty clear as you go into this add-in configuration itself. So essentially the way it works is the customer sees the available add-ins for a given environment. Again, this is environment specific. You will then see that users from the customer's tenant can configure an add-in for a deployed environment. So that is something that's available. The configuration experience will be different. You can see the provisioning status as and when this is configured. You will see all of this changes will be reflected in audit history. So we have the history tab where we maintain all changes to an environment, and you can go ahead and see what were the ones and added by whom. So all of that will be available. And then of course you can add or remove the update on add-on itself. So that's sort of the overall on add-in configuration itself. So let's go quickly and see how a couple of these things, just I'll show you how they look in the current environment. So this is the LCS homepage. For those of you who are new to LCS, this is the typical dashboard that you will see as you go into the LCS implementation project. What you're seeing on the left-hand side right here is the methodology. So that is essentially this is the standard methodology that is published by our fast track team. And then it has 5 phases and a set of tasks that are associated with it. Certain tasks are marked with a red here to indicate they are required. And some of these will have, of course, they'll have a description here, but some of them might have resources where, they actually might, like this one here, actually takes you to the onboarding link itself. And what you can do is you can click on it and you will be taken directly to the onboarding link, and you can go ahead and execute it. So the resources could be either an action itself, or it could be a set of help topic that indicates what you must do. And once you're done with it, we track the required ones are done. So you will have to check that you're done with it, and then you can proceed. What you see on the right-hand side here is essentially the environments that are available as part of a standard subscription. You have the production environment, which is available, and then in this particular case, I have not configured the production environment yet, but then you also get a sandbox environment, which is called the tier 2. And then you have a dev test environment, which is called the tier 1. So 3 environments come as part of your standard subscription for finance and operations. And then of course you can buy additional sandbox tiers can be purchased as required. So once we go in here, we can go ahead and click on full details. So this is how you will get to an environment context itself. I'm going to go ahead and, so this is here is the specific environment that I had clicked on already. What you can see here is there is a set of environment details. There are a set of operations that you can do right on top. The add-in configuration that I mentioned is right here. You can also do it through the maintain and install new add-ins. So this is something that's available. And then you will be able to go ahead and click on the new add-in, and you will get to add the add-in itself. We are launching the add-ins itself in the next couple of months. So you will see them light up as and when they become available. So that is something that is available. And then the next one that I wanted to show you was this available updates fast tab. So you have the available updates tab here, and what you can see is if there's a quality update. In this case, I'm already on version 10.06, but there's a new quality update that's available that I can update, so you can go ahead and take that particular update itself as required and apply it to this environment. And then below that you have the whole monitoring and diagnostics for any specific environment. So I'm going to go ahead and show you one more piece while we are here, which is the whole project onboarding. This is also a new feature that is available that will be prompted from the methodology. And essentially this is a way for you to bootstrap your project and make a set of initializations. So we have the project overview, for example. We have a project scope which talks about the industry vertical that you're trying to complete here. And certain implementation metrics that are gathered. Like I said, some of this is also used by our fast track team. So we encourage you to fill this up. Defining your team, this is very important primarily because all the users in LCS is the primary method for notifications, right? And for you to monitor the service, this is super important that you configure and define the set of people who will have access to LCS. Similarly, the set of notifications itself, who receives the notifications, this is something that is important to configure as you go along. Milestone definition, this is required by the methodology, so you can tell when you complete each phase. So that is something that you can also put in right here. Connecting to Azure DevOps. So LCS is tightly integrated with Azure DevOps for multiple reasons, for support tickets, work items. If you want to be able to track the project progress with respect to the BPM, that's also done through Azure DevOps. So there are multiple reasons why you will want to associate to the Azure DevOps. So that's something that you can do right from here. And then you can go ahead and configure the Azure DevOps. So this is essentially telling what a BPM node becomes in Azure DevOps. So that's something that you can certainly do. There's fast track and then some help topics on what you can do in terms of next steps itself, and then you go ahead and you can complete onboarding. So with that, let's go on to the next section where we have made considerable investment over the last 6 months actually. So in database movement, we actually had a very manual process about 6 to 8 months back really, in which you would have to log a service request, you had to pick a date and time, and then you got queued for a DSE to come in, a service engineer to come in and actually execute, and then you would get so there was lead time involved, there was time involved even in waiting for it to complete, and then you would have to monitor your email itself. So what we did most recently is we made it self-service completely. So you essentially click a button and then you receive an email. And this was clearly, it's being much used. We can see that through our data that we number of refreshes that we get. So that it's been quite well received overall. But we know that there have been a few challenges with the approach itself. Number one is around you've been unable to schedule off hours without human intervention because somebody has to go ahead and click it. So that was definitely an ask that we got from you folks. Number two was you were not able to make it recurring because you had some schedule you wanted to make it recurring to take a refresh, and that's something that you wanted to schedule. And number three was I guess you wanted to just orchestrated hands-free, right, and through your ALM potentially. If you have a build pipeline that builds nightly, you might want to get that all ready for the next day when your developers arrive. So that's something that was much asked for. So for all of this together, we have put together a RESTful endpoint to manage the data lifecycle. So this is something that is available. It is in private preview. So please email me if there is interest in joining and using this. So we have a set of API around listing databases, creating refresh, and getting the status that is available today, and that is something that you can leverage and use. And this is open for private preview today. The authentication model that we use today is around uses OAuth essentially, and it essentially uses the same permissions that you have in LCS, right? So whether you do it through the UI or you use it through the RESTful API, essentially you will use it against the same creds that you're using. We do have throttling in place. Essentially this is today we are allowing about 3 refreshes per day. And this we will tweak with time, right, as and when we figure out what the right balance is to provide the right experience for all of you. We will tweak this, but there will be some throttling in place in general as we make this available. Something that we have also done recently is we have just overall improved the how fast exports happen today. This used to take up to 6 hours to export. One thing we are seeing is, of course, all the customer databases are growing in general, right? So with that, each of these operations is taking much longer. But we have optimized this significantly in the last couple of months, actually. And this one here is now less than an hour. It used to take close to 6 hours before. So that's a big optimization that we have brought in the last release. So with this, let's go on to, we did talk about project onboarding, so I'm going to go quickly into the SQL live views and actions. This has been actually available for about 6 months now, but I just wanted to quickly go through it so that people can see, and I wanted to make sure that you are still using this. So this is our environment monitoring dashboard. So when you are within the details of an environment, you can essentially, you would do it from the monitoring right here. You can go ahead and click on environment monitoring, and this brings you into this view here. So the goodness about this view here is essentially you can get all actions that were performed in the last 35 days, right? So what you would do is you would go ahead and put in a timestamp here. So if you're seeing an issue and it happened in a specific time, you can go ahead, put that in, and you go ahead, click what duration you would like it for, and you go ahead and submit. You will actually get the user load at that point in time. You will get the activity load at that point in time, and if you had specific user activities that were done, like clicking a button, somebody reported an issue, you can actually see what were the set of actions that they did. So you get the complete storyboard view for that time duration in this view right here. So that's something that is available. This has been available for much longer, couple of years at least, but I just wanted to show this in the context of environment monitoring. That next thing that you can do here is around activity. We have a set of canned queries that we make available here. So what you can do is you can choose any of these. For example, I chose the slow queries. So I wanted to see, given that somebody reported an issue, I wanted to see in that duration what were the slow queries that are running. If you run that and you click a search, you can actually get all the details of the exact slow query itself. So that is something that we also have had available for some time. The new feature that we had in the last 6 months is we actually even increased the set of actions and the kind of queries that you can run to see what is blocking, for example. So you have plenty of customizations that you bring to the table beyond what Microsoft does. So the number of customers, large customers have been asking for ways in which they can query and see what is blocking at any given point of time, so they can mitigate the incident right then and there. So this is something that's available. This is again under SQL Insights and Queries. You can just go ahead and say current blocking tree, and then you can go ahead and execute. And if there were any blocking SPIDs here at that point in time, it would list them right here. In this particular case, I don't have any, but you would be able to see the actual SPID. And now that you see the blocking tree, you can mitigate it, right? The whole goal is that you want to make progress, and you want to mitigate it for now. You diagnose it separately, but to be able to mitigate it, what we have is we have an actions view, and we let you do a set of actions here that is available. So you can go ahead, for example, you can end SQL process right here, so you can do that as required. But we also have a few others where you can create an index as required. We have an index analysis tab, and if you want to do some of those, you can create it. So again, I just want to reiterate that this is more a mitigation process. In general, we do want you to do this as a code change eventually and do the right diagnosis, but we wanted to give some ability to mitigate incidents on your customizations to you directly. So, and that's what this view here is about, and so that is something that is available. So with that, let's go back into a roadmap. I have about 12 minutes, so I'm going to go ahead and go into the roadmap itself. So what's next? So we have a few things that are coming in. So in terms of roadmap, there is the first one is self-service deployment, which is already in progress. We've been using new environments are now in self-service deployment. Existing environments will be moved in the coming months. You might have seen some emails that we have started doing some migrations. You might have started seeing some emails already. There is the FNO CDS integration. I'll talk to that. That's going to be available in November. There is the zero downtime update experience that I will go into in a little bit more. There's the Azure Monitor integration that I was asked about some time back too, and we'll see that and some more around improved comms experience itself. So let's go into self-service deployment. So this is, so the way it is today, for those of you who are familiar with deployment, is there is a lead time when you request for a deployment. It's 24 to 48 hours today, and then it does take us up to 8 hours to deploy an environment, right? So, but this new model that we have will have no lead time, deployment is within an hour. One other thing that you get from this method of deployment is essentially the way we do updates, right? So essentially updates to sandbox will be replicated to production. So we don't redeploy a package, but we actually replicate the sandbox to production. So whatever you're testing and signing off on sandbox will be as is available in production. So because of this, one ask that we have from you is to create a single deployable package for your customizations. And this is something that we are sort of bringing in through the Dev ALM pipeline. It has been the recommended way for a while, but now this will be sort of required once we move to self-service deployment. So if you have customizations across the board, so please start looking at bringing them together in a single package itself. One other thing that will happen is that we will do elastic scale and we do that, but in this particular case, you can do huge elastic scale without downtime. So that's another advantage that you will get. There will be no RDP access allowed to sandbox in this particular deployment model, but that is something that will happen across the board. So that is you should expect in general that we will start enabling all tools required so that you do not have to do for performance testing, for traces, all of that we are for RSAT, for all of that we are enabling such that you don't need to have RDP access. So that is something that we are continuously working on. And then finally, this rollout has started in November for existing environments. So we're moving the existing infrastructure into the self-service deployment model. So this is a change that you will see coming in. You will be notified through an email and you can react to that as needed. So the next update that I had was around zero downtime update experience. So today we do have a 4-hour window that we have, which is a maintenance downtime window that we take for any kind of updates. So as we bring this along, so one of the things we are going to roll out early next year, it's going to start with the preview and then eventually be available, we will do this only for Microsoft service updates, and you can get it only if you're on the latest monthly update. So only if you're updating from N to N+1, you will get a zero downtime experience. So that's the expectation. It will be available for both sandbox and production. So if you are on much older updates, you will have a downtime like you have today, right? That's the expectation. But if you're from N to N+1, we will be able to do using zero downtime. Customizations will not be supported today. This is something that we will support. We will provide guidance eventually, but when we start, this update mechanism will be only for, it'll only be for Microsoft service updates to start with. And this will be essentially supported in the self-service deployment environment. So that's another benefit that you will get. Zero downtime will be supported in all self-service deployment environments to start with. So the preview is expected to be in the first quarter. That's the initial expectation. In terms of user experience, what will change? First of all, the update settings will remain the same. So you will continue to have an update window that you will configure, right? Because we need this because we want to make sure that you are okay with bits changing at that point in time. So which is why you will continue to configure an update window. If you are a user that's interacting during the update window, then you may be prompted to essentially to save your work, and there might be a slight pause of about a minute or less, right? That you might see an hourglass that comes in. But after that, you will be able to resume your work and you'll be able to continue. So this is essentially so that you can continue user interaction if you so need to, and if we need you to pause for some reason, we will actually prompt you. So that's the experience you will see. In terms of the batch jobs itself, what will happen is if there is a long-running batch job that runs into the update window, it will be restarted. But you can start new batch jobs during that update window. That's not going to be an issue, but we will restart any long-running batch job during that time window itself. Okay, so that's about zero downtime window. So the next feature I just wanted to briefly touch upon is F&O and CDS integration. So as you all know, we have the whole effort of dual write that we have had, where we take a subset of F&O entities and we write it into CDS and we write it into the finance and operations database itself. So this is something that's available. There's a session tomorrow morning at 9 right in this room about that. In order to enable this, couple of things that we are doing through LCS and environments itself. Number one, if you are creating a new environment, an F&O environment, we will allow you to create a new CDS environment if your user license permitted, right? So then we'll allow you to create it then and there, so the two environments are linked together. Number two is, if you have an existing environment, you can always go back and you can create a new environment, or you can create an existing environment and you'll be able to link the two together. So both of those will be available. And with this, essentially what also happens is the environments are set up for dual write, right? So basically we have the CDS solution, all of that in place so that we can have dual write capabilities for the set of entities that is available. By default, I believe it only enables a few entities, but we have an experience that's available where you can go, that is within the F&O client, where you can go and say, I want additional entities to also be synced. So that is something that's available. So as part of this, something that we are realizing is there is more and more people who are leveraging dual write and are using two administrative portals as they're doing that. So one is the Power Platform Admin Center that is today used by the Power Platform and customer engagement, and number two is of course LCS. In order to give a better experience for administration, because you're sort of doing some environment management in LCS and some environment management in PPAC, we are looking to sort of bring together some scenarios together. There are a few that we are considering right at the beginning, one being support, the support experience, so that from the Power Platform Admin Center you can log a support ticket, for example. Licensing is another one that we're considering. So this entire initiative is for the next 6 to 18 months, I would say. But we do have a set of things that we are starting out with, support and licenses being the two big ones where we would like to start showing you some of this visibility together. So in order as we are making progress on this, we really would like to hear from you. There is a survey link there, so if you are people who have experience using both portals, I would love to talk to you even right after this session, but we also have a survey experience, or if you want to if you just want to send me a line, I'm happy to engage even after this. But this is a place that you will start to see more progress, so that you don't have to shift between portals and we can start seeing more come together. And this is frankly something that I've been asked multiple times in previous sessions too, but you should start seeing more progress in the coming months on this. The next one is around Azure Monitor integration. So Azure Monitor integration, so essentially today, like I showed you, we have an experience in LCS where you can troubleshoot and diagnose issues. There are certain things, of course, it's limited by what we make available. Azure Monitor is a capability from Azure that's available that allows you to create dashboards, analyze, create alerts, which is a big part of what people have asked us about. They want to create alerts on certain data. So what we are doing essentially is we'll allow you to give us an Azure Monitor subscription. And we will connect as LCS to that Azure Monitor subscription and essentially push all the telemetry data from LCS into Azure Monitor. And this will become available to you to essentially go through, and you will be able to use the tools available with Azure Monitor that is pretty much be growing and building every day. So I encourage you to take a look at that. This is today in private preview. Another gentleman here was asking me about it. So this is another one where if you please send me a line. We have a few customers. We are gradually increasing the number of customers that are available. This is available in production environments only. So as and when we'll be happy to add you. So please, again, this is another place where you can come to me right up after the session or send me a line after. So that's sort of a whirlwind tour. I have a minute left. I just wanted to quickly throw up some resources there for the various things that I talked about. Maybe we do have a minute for a question if somebody wants to come up to a mic. And as always, appreciate your feedback, and please evaluate the session and provide any feedback that you have.
I didn't got the context of those add-ins. Can you give an example?
Yes. So the add-in configurations, add-ins are essentially meant to be for a set of services that we're going to be releasing. Some of these are going to be for supply chain management. We have a couple of new services that are coming in that you might be familiar with. Yeah. I don't want to announce something that was not mentioned before, but there is a few services around supply chain management that I know that's coming out. Yeah. So today, today it is primarily the telemetry data that we have. So it isn't the event viewer data today. It's primarily the telemetry data that we have is what you will see. And that's a good, I mean, I think that if there's something there that we can change or something, I can take that as a feedback note.
Sorry, when we lose access RDP to sandbox environments, is there will be a way for us to access SQL database there?
Yes, yes. So SQL access you will be able to do, and we essentially whitelist the IP address. So you can run SQL Management Studio, and we whitelist the environments from which you can do SQL management.
Just local Management Studio that we can access, right?
Yes, you can access SQL management.
Thank you.
Yeah. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and share a couple more resources that is available. The release wave blog, release wave 2, and that's very much used by us for all the plans for LCS that I shared. This is something that we document. So please, in order to stay, to know about what are the various features that we release in LCS, please take a look at that, including the cloud platform. All of that we very much update the release notes in general. So please take a look at that. So with that, thank you. Thanks everyone.